better now. My apologies on that. Is that better? Do we have audio on me now at this point? What would a live broadcast be without a little bit of a glitch and a hiccup? Okay. All right. So anyway, welcome to our first broadcast of 2022 and also our first broadcast under our new branding of the Digital Academy. We are really excited for a lot of the changes, a lot of the events and new things that are going to be happening coming up in 2022. But one of the things that we wanted to start off with was to take a look at what was going on and what are some of the major changes that have happened that might require you to be reevaluating what you're doing on your tactical plan, what you need to think about with regards to your content creation, and a lot of the new developments that are happening in the digital and social media space that you need to be thinking about as you go forward into 2022 and start looking at your plans and your directions and everything that we're looking at as you move forward into this time frame. So if you do have any questions as we're going along during the presentation, please just type them into the chat window and we will get to those as we are progressing along when we get to an appropriate break as we work our way through the presentation as we go. So as we said, welcome to our first live broadcast for 2022, and hopefully everybody is still managing to stay sane, stay safe, and to manage everything with this ongoing COVID activities that we've been dealing with over the last couple of years now. One of the biggest changes that organizations have to start thinking about as we move into 22 is dealing with the increased privacy elements that are coming into play. This is going to have an impact across a number of different dimensions. It's going to have an impact on what we do with regards to how we measure activities, how we evaluate the success of our activities, and also a huge impact that we'll talk about a little bit later when we take a look at it from a privacy perspective and look at the key elements that come into play for our advertising, our targeting, and our marketing elements from that standpoint. One of the big changes that has come into play is Apple's mail privacy protection. And so what this has done is really given individual users who are using Apple Mail, which is one of the largest mail platforms that is utilized out there, sort of on par with Outlook, depending upon whether people are on Apple devices or PC devices. But the mail privacy protection, what it will do is it will block an individual's information being sent back to your email campaigns that you've sent out. So what that is going to do, and the biggest impact that it's going to have on your measuring of your success or checking the effectiveness of your email campaigns, is the fact that every message is going to be seen as being opened, whether or not the individual has opened it or not. So we're not going to be able to put a lot of credibility, if you will, with regards to our opens and a lot of the testing that we might have done with regards to our subject lines, with regards to any sort of messaging in the opening of the beginning, are going to have a little bit less of an impact because of the fact that those are tools that are designed to evaluate, is your email messaging getting to people's attention and triggering their ability to, decide that they want to open up that message. What we're going to need to really be focusing on, what we're going to need to be looking at in a lot more detail, is we're going to have to be considering what our impacts are of the engagement and interactivity with the elements contained within that email. And so what this means is we're going to have to be tracking more about, are people clicking on those links that we've got contained within those email messages? Are they going to our landing pages that we've created for certain key elements? So more of the end result analytics are what we're going to need to be focusing on, less about, did they open up that email message? Did that come into play? Where did that sort of happen as we go? So this is really one of the pieces of the puzzle that is having organizations really needing to rethink the data that you've got, rethink how you're evaluating the success, and really setting up your appropriate metrics and analytics in a slightly different way to evaluate what's going on with the new dimensions. And the other part about this is really moving into the death of third-party cookies, although they have been given life support for a little bit. Now, you may be aware that Safari has, for a couple of years now, blocked third-party cookies. So this is where, if you were trying to do, for example, a remarketing campaign, and you were trying to run a campaign on Facebook that was reaching everybody who had been to a particular page of your website, because you installed a tracking pixel on there, you had a third-party cookie that was transferring that information into Facebook so that Facebook could go, oh, they were on your website, all is good. That would be a little bit biased, because people who were using Safari would not have been registered within that component. They would not have been doing that, because Safari has been blocking this for a while. Where the big challenge was coming in was the fact that Google had announced that Chrome was not going to be tracking third-party cookies. That was supposed to be happening in 2022, in fact, early in 2022, but that has now been delayed with the latest announcements into 2023. Now, from an advertising perspective, this is going to be one of the things that could be quite challenging in how we do our remarketing campaigns, how we do cross-platform advertising. And so there's some expectation that there may be an alternative coming onto the market, that may be alternatives that we will have that will allow us to do tracking of some format within this dimension. Now, the key here is this is third-party cookies. And this is where those who may think a little bit more evil of our digital platforms that are out there might think that this was a push by Google, and why Google was doing it was to encourage more Google advertising. So if you are using a pixel and tracking people that have been to a particular page of your website, this is going to allow you to then do ads on Google to those remarketing campaigns, because that's Google collecting the data and Google doing the ad targeting. We won't have access to know who those individuals were or any of those tracking details from that perspective. What we will see is we will be able to do those same remarketing, but only within the platform that was collecting the data. So what this means is you will be able to do remarketing campaigns on Facebook, as an example, on the basis of people who engaged with a particular post or who engaged with a particular live stream. So our ability to do custom marketing or custom targeted campaigns within a platform is going to be where the focus has to be moving to. So looking more at what we're doing with first-party data, how we're dealing with our engagement and our communication and our tracking, and also what we look at with regards to our analytics and how we evaluate the success or failure of the different pieces that are coming into play. So this challenge and this change in what's happening with regards to the cookies is also a big piece about where we come into that mail protection. The real element of where thinking about how we handle things moving forward is going to be a lot more on the basis of what's being referred to as customer journey mapping. So getting individuals to connect into a logged identifier, not using cookies, but really managing their journey, understanding how they move through your processes from one platform to the other, and how you go about putting that information directly to them, and when it's appropriate to engage and connect. Now, a lot of where this customer journey mapping is going to come into play is with an increased focus on messaging applications as well. The connecting with individuals through messaging apps is going to be key, and particularly because the two largest messaging applications that we've got dealing with Messenger and WhatsApp are both owned by Facebook. So this is where integrating our messaging communications with how we connect with people on our platforms, like on Facebook within groups, is really going to be an important element, an important part of how we go about understanding what our customers are doing and where they flow through our systems, particularly when we take a look at something we'll be talking about shortly, and that's the growth of social commerce. So Julie, you asked that would third-party cookie issue impact the reach to network audience from Facebook of Twitter, reaching people off those apps and not directly to them? Absolutely. So that's going to have a huge issue with you cross-connecting, and that's where the importance is going to be, is reevaluating tactically how you go about using channels and where it comes into play. For example, this is one of the sort of the new reasons why Facebook groups are going to become even more valuable than they have been for the last year. And so for those of you that haven't been following some of the conversations or discussions that are going on, your Facebook page is not where you should be trying to engage or to reach your audiences. Your Facebook page is really being used as a recruitment tool to identify the types of topics, the types of conversations that people are interested in, and then inviting them into private groups where you can engage with them more directly. The reason being is, looking at your page as a platform, with Facebook's algorithm, you're really only going to be reaching about 1/2 of 1% of the people who have liked your Facebook page on average for that page post. Facebook's priority is friends, families, and groups. So because of that, we really have to think about what is going to be key and how we go about managing those groups. Because once somebody is in a Facebook group, they will see almost 100% of the messages and content that you're posting in that group. So while you may have smaller numbers in that group that are compared to the number of fans that you've got on your page, what you will see is your messages will actually reach a greater number of them, and your engagement rate should be higher, which should positively impact your page reach as well. So it's not about getting rid of the page, but it's about incorporating it and using it to recruit in the groups. And the groups, whether it's on LinkedIn or whether it's on Facebook predominantly, is going to have a huge impact on your customer journey where that comes into play. So we'll talk a little bit more about that a little bit later. Video, from a content perspective, continues to become powerful and important. But here's where we got this little dichotomy going on. Short form video is becoming increasingly valuable, i.e. Instagram Reels, and using Reels on Facebook is also very powerful, and people aren't really addressing that. The challenge, however, is we've got the TikTok effect going on. People are looking for these short form videos to be much more creative, innovative, and entertaining. So there's a bit of a challenge going on here. But on the other hand, even though in general, shorter form video content is becoming more important, what we're seeing is on some platforms, it's not really working. YouTube Shorts, as an example, has not really been the success that YouTube was hoping it was going to be. YouTube is far more appropriate for longer form, higher resolution content, similar to a live stream broadcast such as we're doing now. That's the type of content that's working well on the YouTube platform, unless you're talking about advertisements. So when we think about where we're sort of doing our deployments and how the information is going out there, we really have to think about the type of platform, the format of the video, and the length of the video is going to vary as you move from platform to platform. But in general, about 80% at the moment of your content that you should be putting out on your social media platforms should be video based, because that's what is getting the engagement, that's what people are looking for, and that's what's really going to be driving the value for your users and getting that content created. So having a clear content creation strategy and a process to be able to execute that effectively is really going to be key. Now, we said that 80% of the content should be video at the moment, because we've got a little bit of a change that's starting to work its way through, and that is the growth of audio. Podcasts continue to be powerful. Podcasts continue to become super important in how we deploy our content in the work that we do. However, what has changed is the long form live audio. That has really become a critical piece of where we think about what we do. What started by Clubhouse has now become an amazingly powerful tool across virtually all platforms. About the last one to offer live audio has been LinkedIn, and they have now finally launched their beta tests for live audio on LinkedIn. So this is where we're probably going to be moving to a point very shortly where our recommendations are going to be saying, well, hey, video needs to be maybe 70% of your content, as live audio and audio content becomes an increasing part of what we do. We need to think about what we're doing and where interactive audio is going to be more valuable to help you achieve some of your goals and objectives. One of the biggest changes that has happened in the last 12 to 18 months is the growth of social shopping. Social e-commerce is rampant. What we're seeing is reaching about 40% of e-commerce activities now are moving on to social platforms as opposed to from your website. So being able to engage and sell products through your Facebook shop, your Instagram shop, and the ability to do live selling and live shopping across your Instagram live stream or your Facebook live stream are becoming more and more prevalent and popular as we go. Shopify is growing and getting much more connected into the social media components as well. And so thinking about, if you are a retailer, if you are selling products or services, how to incorporate social shopping is going to be a very valuable process going forward. Messaging is going to become one of your most important ways of engaging and connecting. As we move into the cross-platform communication between Facebook with Messenger, WhatsApp, and Instagram Direct, the importance and the acceptance of using chatbots to engage with your audience through your website and through your messaging applications, and moving away from email and phone as one of your chosen means of communication. The numbers at the moment have been growing, and it's approaching 80% of individuals who would prefer to message or text a brand or a business rather than email them. And so we really, as an organization, need to think about, are we providing the opportunities to engage and connect with our audience through our messaging applications? Online advertising is going to be going through a lot of challenges and updates when we look at what's happening with the cookie policies that are changing and the tracking cookies. What we are seeing is a significant increase in effectiveness for the type of advertising, such as messaging ads on Facebook. So ads that are driving engagement and communication directly, as opposed to ads that are simply driving people to a web page or to a link, are becoming a lot more important. Now, we all know that Facebook's parent company has changed its name to Meta, and so that's a big piece that's coming into play, as well as the growth of the metaverse. What we've seen is a huge increase in the amount of VR and AR headsets that are starting to emerge, an increased in the meeting capabilities and the practical business applications to meet rather in a Zoom meeting, to meet in a virtual environment and engage and collaborate in that environment. This is going to do nothing but grow as we see major players like Apple coming out with their headsets later this year, with their AR headsets, and really dealing with the integration between augmented reality, virtual reality, extended reality, and how they all mix together and moving into an integrated headset. We'll be addressing a lot of this with content and sessions and things that we're going to be doing in 2022, because this is a lot of my focus of my sabbatical, which I'm on this year, is to really better understand and to delve more into the VR, AR world. Now, from a business perspective, is it an absolute must be there now? No, it's still early days. We're still learning. Things are still being worked out. However, once you get mass adoption by the public, is that when you really want to be trying to figure out this space? Or should you be getting yourself figured out? Is this the time when you need to start to explore VR and AR and the impact of 360 video and learn along with everybody else, so that when it does become mainstream, you've got yourself sorted out? And that's one of the reasons why it should be getting a little bit of your time and a little bit of your energy, because you don't want to wait until you're like, oh my God, everybody's in the virtual world, we better get there. It's like somebody jumping onto Twitter now. It's a little bit late. Twitter's on its downside for the most part. So we've got to think about where we go. The one thing just on that point about Twitter is the one area where Twitter is doing exceptionally well is Twitter Spaces have really been one of the key players within the live audio broadcast environment. Twitter Spaces have been extremely effective. Twitter Spaces has been growing so well that they had to implement a feature last week that limits the number of people that can join a Twitter Space, because people were finding that the numbers coming in were becoming unmanageable to have a live audio engagement. So a lot of thinking that we need to look at with where things are going from there. Just a couple of comments on some platform elements. LinkedIn is becoming much more of a content network and a creator network. Video, live video, and as we mentioned, live audio is going to become part of this. This is not just where you put your resume. This is where there's going to be a lot more engagement, a lot more communication and dialogue going on. that you've really got to think about what role LinkedIn, with its new creator platform, with its new creator tools, how is it going to fit into helping you reach your specific target audiences? Facebook, as we mentioned, groups are going to continue to become your primary platform within Facebook, and your page is going to be your recruitment tool to recruit people into those groups. So that is really the bit of the continuation. The numbers on Facebook are dropping, but it still is the largest. So we've always got to sort of make sure that we keep it in mind and think about what we do. TikTok has been the one that is growing in leaps and bounds. The advertising capabilities on TikTok are really becoming super powerful and important. And when we think about the advertising capabilities on TikTok, that is potentially how many brands and organizations should be using the TikTok platform. It's not necessarily an appropriate or valuable element for your organization to be on TikTok and to be creating and deploying TikTok videos. But because of the massive growth in numbers on TikTok, we have to realize that it is a key platform for reaching what may be our target audiences. So advertising capabilities on Snapchat and TikTok have been growing exponentially over the last couple of years and really needs to be considered into your digital advertising solutions. YouTube continues to become increasingly powerful in the home, with more and more content being deployed on home television sets. The ability to create and deploy 4K video content, which should be limited to YouTube and LinkedIn at this point with regards to your deployment, is becoming increasingly powerful. YouTube is also really the only platform that is appropriate for longer than about a 5-minute video. Facebook, you're probably looking at limits between 3 to 5 minutes for your video content, with the exception of live. But YouTube is really the only platform that is designed and appropriate for that longer video content deployment. As we mentioned, YouTube Shorts has not really been doing quite so much as where they're happening. And that's a big part of what's going on from that element that's there. From an analytics perspective, GA4 has been an absolute game changer. Google Analytics 4 is not just an update on the old version of Google Analytics or the Universal Analytics. GA4 is a complete rebuild that is appropriate for where we are moving in our cross-platform, cookieless world, being able to evaluate and measure what's happening. At the moment, Google Analytics 4 should be deployed on your website alongside your Universal Analytics, because not everything is available yet in Google Analytics 4. So having and running both versions of analytics in parallel are really key to make sure that you are getting the right data and being able to act on that data. GA4 was built from the ground up for where we're going to be tomorrow. It incorporates advanced artificial intelligence to do not just telling you what has happened, but to incorporate predictive modeling and tell you what is likely going to happen based on its data. So it really has been a complete game changer, and organizations, if they have not done so already, should be adding a Google Analytics 4 property into their website analytics data. So Julie, you asked about engagement happening on Facebook groups and turning off comments on your business page. Yes, the engagement that you're after is going to be happening within groups and the reach is going to be happening within groups, but it's never a good opportunity to turn off comments on any of the platforms, because if people are not commenting on your platform, they're going to be commenting on some other platform, so you don't really have the ability to respond. So having those comments on, even if it's an approval basis, so that anything that is not a legit comment is able to be filtered out. But the whole point of putting content out there is to engage with people and to have that dialogue to drive your goals and objectives forward. So it's generally never a good idea to turn that off. What we will see is we will see more and more of the communication being driven through your messaging applications, the legit communication anyway. So managing that really does become key as you start to go forward. So those are the main points that we wanted to sort of touch base on. It really just to take a little bit of time to sort of say, here's some of the key things that are going to be happening that you've got to start thinking about. Obviously, within every single platform, there's new features and new tools and new elements that are coming out that have to be considered as better opportunities for creating your content, that have to be considered as better opportunities for engaging with your audiences, and really reevaluating in your tactical plan, is this the best platform? Is this the best content delivery to help us achieve this specific goal, to achieve this objective? So what I'd like to do is to open the floor up if you have any additional questions on any of the topics that we've talked about, or any of the elements with regards to digital and social media. As we mentioned, please feel free just to type them into the chat window, and we will get to those questions whenever they pop up. And we thank you very much in advance for attending this live stream. And if you do have any additional questions, feel free to reach out to us on our new sites and our new information, and we will happily be able to connect with you and engage with you across our various platforms. So if nobody has any questions, you're welcome to sort of head off and get back on to your day. And thank you very much for joining us. If anybody does have any questions, I'll stick around for a few minutes and address those as we go. Thanks very much, everyone. Have yourselves a great day. We had a question regarding the installation of the GA4. We will have tutorials that are being addressed on that. It is simply the installation of a new property within Google Analytics. If you go into your Google Analytics account and you add a new property, then there'll be the ability to add a GA4, but we will be providing a tutorial. We're going to be hitting the studio coming up in the next piece coming up. In the next couple of weeks, we'll be uploading lots more tutorials and videos and content. We had a question about what if your resources are low and you cannot manage groups? Well, the challenge with that is if your resources are so low that you can't engage with your audience, then what is the objective that you're trying to do on that social media platform? It's if you're investing time and energy onto a page that's not reaching anybody and that nobody's engaging with, moving that time and energy from those platforms that are not engaging and working effectively onto those platforms or tools that are, is one of the pieces that really becomes important. So it's not about doing everything, but it's about doing the things that are going to be important. We see many organizations cranking out content and deploying content on their Facebook pages, but nobody is seeing it. Nobody is being reached by it, or very few people are. All right, sorry about that, folks. Had a slight issue with regards to the battery dying on my audio. Hopefully we're back now. So back to that question, thanks for letting me know. The key thing about managing the groups and working with the groups and bringing all of that together is that you've got to evaluate what is your goal and objective of that group. How often are you going to be posting content? What are you really trying to achieve? Are you simply posting once a week into that group? Are you looking at using it for live shopping? Certain tools in a Facebook group, as an example, are not available in any other format, such as your live audio streaming is only available within groups and not something that you can do on your page. So we have to really make sure we go back to our strategic, our tactical, and our audit plans and be evaluating what's working within those platforms and think about what's going to be the most appropriate platform to be able to achieve that. If any of you do have any other questions, please feel free to send them to me via email or continue to post them in the chat, and I will respond to those after the live stream. So thanks very much for joining us today. My apologies for the audio issues at the beginning and at the end, but hopefully you stuck around and were able to get some good content out of that. Thanks very much, everybody. Have yourself a great day, and we will see you all soon. Take care.